right, ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention and direct it to the hallway? We are going to introduce our inductees. Up first, we have Vicky Hine being escorted by Sean Smith. Next, we have Scott Grinnell being escorted by Michelle Cape. All right, and now we have Dan Lilly escorted by Ann Archaki.
At this time, we'll do the invocation. It's going to be done by Stephanie Grinnell.
Thank you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty, through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, at this time, I'd like to have a moment of silence for our departed Hall of Fame members and past bowlers. I'm going to light the candles at the front table. Hang on to that for a second. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I'll do my opening address. I'm Tom Archaki, president of the Western Crawford County Bowling Association. Welcome to our annual Hall of Fame Honors Dinner. Just a reminder to everybody to start out the show. If you have, if you own your own business or you're a bowler, if you have any pictures from leagues or tournaments, please post them on our WCCBA Facebook. That way everybody will get out and see what's going on. Also tonight, our DJ is Jim Gilbert. He'll be here until 10 p.m., so please stick around and give him any requests after the program. And at this time, I'd also like to say congratulations to all the inductees and also our junior bowler honorees. Special thanks to Johnny Petraglia for being our guest speaker, and thanks to Mike Mudger for being our master of ceremonies. This year plan for the Western Crawford County Bowling Association, we hosted our first annual mixed couples tournament at Crawford and Lanes. It was a great success. It was run by Vicky Hine, your newest Hall of Fame member, and we had 31 couples participate. Thank you, Vicky. We had the first annual Lost Lanes Open for a junior tournament, where juniors bowled singles, doubles, and team event. It also was a great success. That was run by Natalie Hanks. We're having the first annual seniors tournament at Plaza Lanes, and also the first annual adult junior tournament, also at Plaza Lanes. We're trying to establish a traveling tournament between all four houses. That's going to be something we'll try and get in the process for next year. As always, we'd ask as many of our sanctioned bowlers to come participate in our tournaments. It truly is a lot of fun. We're also going to have a mid-season officers training to assist our league secretaries and presidents on what is required of them at the end of the season. Example, turning in final averages on time so that we can get our average book out to our local bowling centers before the beginning of the season. All tournament schedules are to be posted at all, excuse me, all bowling centers. So if you want to know when a tournament's going on, there should be a schedule at the bowling center. If there's not, get a hold of me and we'll make sure that they get a schedule. I'd like to thank all the board members for your hard work. And at this time, I'd like all the board members, as I call your name, to please stand and remain standing. Got it. Got it. Okay, first, Nick Archaki, Stacy Dodson, Vicki Hine, Ann Archaki, Roy Blystone, Betty Frasina, Bruce Hine, Larry Hoffman, Jessica Miller, Sean Smith, Christy Wolf, Natalie Hanks, Sherry Reese, Michelle Cape, Ricky Canline, Jake Seda, Brandon Wacko. This is your board that does the work for Western Crawford County. Give them a round of applause. Thanks for your service, guys. Really appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to bring attention to our proprietors that are here today. Bruce and Bertie Beers from Lakeside Lanes. Could you please stand? They're in partners with business with Donnie and Kelly Granda. They're unable to attend tonight. From Lost Lanes, we have Natalie and Harry Hanks. Thank you. From Plaza Lanes, Kurt Baird and Ramon Rodriguez. They are our newest proprietors. They just bought the place, so good luck and a lot of work ahead of you. And from Crawford and Lanes, they're not here tonight, Keith Seidel and Becky Seidel. But they run a good program down in Cockerton, and we really appreciate their work too. Without these great people, we would not have an association, so thank you very much. And in closing, special thanks to my wife Ann. As everybody knows, I'm old. Vicki, I know, yes, I'm old. And I'm very computer illiterate. Just ask our association manager. Without the help of my wife, a lot of work in this, as this presidency would not be getting done. So thanks, dear. Appreciate all your help. That's all I have.
Okay, very quickly, because they want to start feeding us, and the head table goes first. It's the only reason why I do this job. The pay sucks. This is November. All veterans, please rise. All veterans. Gentlemen, thank you for your service. Past inductees, please stand. These are the best bowlers in Western Crawford County.
All right, I'd like to call off some honor scores from this past year. If you're here, raise your hand or stand up. We'll acknowledge you. Okay, first one was Jeff Keener, 2 300s and an 857, which is the Lost Lanes record at the present time. Ron Riley, 300. Joey French, 11 in a row. Tyler Barnes, 813. Lee Duck, yeah, Tyler's here. Lee Duck, 300. Steve King, 300. Jason Easler, I'm sorry, 299, 826. Harry Hanks, 300. Ernie Dombrowski, 300. Roderick Baird, 300. Jeffrey Harbaugh, 300. Lane Baker, 800. Troy Johnson, 300, 807. Donnie Granda, Mr. 300 and Mr. 800. He had 7 300s, 1 299, 5 800s, 824, 826, 808, 812, 817. And just this week he hit his 95th 800. So, congratulations to Donnie. Ryan Williams, we believe he had 2 300s, a 299, and 2 800s for Ryan Williams. And Nick Archocki had a 299. And I'd like to tell you how our tournament winners did this year. The Jamboree was won by Brad Springs. The Mystery Doubles was won by Branda Canline and Jeff Keener. The Western Crawford County Men's Tournament was Team Handicap Johnny's team that consisted of John Grinnell, Nate Fralick, Ken Major, and Doug Francis. Team Scratch was Allegheny Tool, which was Jim Lynn, who's here. Good job, Jimmy. Phil Rice, Robert Mudger, and Jim Hunter. Doubles Handicap, Stephen Evanitz and Charles Glander. Double Scratch, Jim Lynn and Joe Payton. Single Scratch, Mike Almond. Singles Handicap, Mike Anthony. All Events Handicap, Montana Brenzineer. All Events Scratch, Mike Almond. And for our ladies, the team handicap was Crazy 4, Ellie Van Gilder, Christy Wolf, Vicky Hine, and Nicole Dilly-Jonas. All right, we're good there. Doubles division, Stacy Badamine and Lee McClellan. Doubles division 2, Dawn Carter and Suzanne Mudger. Singles handicap was Linda Grumling. Singles handicap division 2, Karen Anthony. All events division 1, Christy Wolf. And all events division 1, Carrie Anthony. That's our honor scores for this year and our winners. Congratulations to all. At this time, this is last call for Chinese auction tickets. They're in front of the glass windows. Somebody will be there to help you. $5 a strip. We have 58 Chinese auction gifts to give away. Please make sure you get your tickets. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my son, Nick Archocki, who's going to recognize our outstanding junior bowlers. Normally this has been done by Doug Grumling, but with a family issue, Doug can no longer do that. So Nick has stepped up and he's going to take over.
Well, this is a little different. All right, good evening, everyone. On behalf of the WCCBA, thank you for joining us for our annual Western Crawford County Bowling Honors Dinner. And I'd personally like to welcome 14-time PBA champion, winner of a PBA title in 6 consecutive decades, Triple Crown winner, PBA and USBC Hall of Famer, the man himself, Johnny Petraglia. As many of you know, my name is Nick Archocki. For the ones that don't know me, I am one of the most successful youth bowlers in the history of Crawford County. I bowled on CBS Sports Network in 2016 for the U15 Junior Gold Championship title, the largest youth tournament in the country, placing second to a very talented Southern Californian bowler. Even though I'm speaking tonight in collaboration with the Western Crawford County Bowling Association, this ceremony isn't about me, it's about you. The fantastic bowlers of Western Crawford County who provide a firm platform for bowling to continue and strive in our area. Tonight, I have the privilege to stand in the shoes of Doug Grumling for the first time in my life, speaking for a very important category in this Hall of Fame banquet, which is honoring the current youth bowlers in our county based off of their accomplishments, amount of years they've been bowling, and their current year in high school. The 6 youth bowlers that are being honored tonight is a night that they will remember for the rest of their lives. It's a night that puts them in the spotlight beside our Hall of Fame inductees, Vicky, Dan, and Scott, that are being honored tonight as well. Hopefully for the youth bowlers that are being honored tonight, the ones that will be honored next year, or the ones that will be honored in 5 to 10 years, I hope that they will want to continue bowling, work hard, practice, never give up, and have aspirations to want to be a Western Crawford County USBC Bowling Association Hall of Fame member. Personally, that has been a goal of mine ever since I was about 8 years old, and I was honored in this very building for my accomplishments as a junior bowler when I was 14 years old, the youngest bowler to ever be honored in this county, a night that I will always remember and be extremely proud of. Before I start with the junior honorees, I'd like to recognize 3 youth bowlers for their amazing accomplishments this season. I'd also like to send my condolences to these young bowlers as their grandfather unexpectedly passed away this last Tuesday. The Hine brothers, Isaac, the 17-year-old high school junior, shot an outstanding 773 series, his highest set ever, at the inaugural Lost Lands Junior Classic earlier this month. These next 2 are twins. Weiss, this 14-year-old, shot his second career 600 today with a 618 and has a high game of 297. Wyatt, the other 14-year-old, has had a breakout year. He shot a 200 for the first time this year and has a high game of 213. He won the all events category at the Lost Lands Junior Classic and has battled with heart issues ever since the day he was born. I'm very proud of him for never giving up on his life through multiple heart operations. And without further ado, here are your junior honorees. Scott Mcmahon. Scott is the son of Karina and Sean Mcmahon and is currently a senior as a homeschooled student. Scott started bowling when he was in 2nd grade and throughout the years has achieved a high game of 181, high series of 398, and a high average of 112. Scott's future plans are to find a career that focuses on the use of computers. Scott, can you come up here, please? Congrats. Any words you'd like to say? No. All right. That's not what happens here. All right. The next one is Summer Praganovich. Summer is not here this evening. Summer is the daughter of Amy Forkey and stepdaughter of James Bartholomew. Summer is currently a senior with PA Cyber. She has been bowling since she was 5 years old at Lost Lands. She has a high game of 174, high series of 474, and a high average of 125. Summer has qualified for the district Pepsi finals 4 or 5 times, winning her division once when she was young. Her future plans are to work under someone for photography and hopefully at some point start her own photography business. Nathaniel Thomas. Nathaniel is the son of Heather Morris and is a senior at Cambridge Springs Junior Senior High School. He has been bowling for 10 years at Lost Lands, accomplishing a high game of 188, a high series of around 440, and a high average of 125. Nathaniel is very active in high school activities at school, such as assisting the technology department with teachers and lost my spot. With the technology department and teachers with the technical problems within the classroom, serving as manager for the Blue Devils marching band for 2 years, and has been a part of the National History Day team for 5 years. He works with the art department, has participated in both chorus and concert band, and is a member of the yearbook club. He also volunteers his time at the Senior Center in Cambridge Springs. After graduation, Nathaniel wants to pursue a career in aviation from Edinburgh or Clarion Universities, or pursue a communication web design degree from Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh. Nathaniel, can you come up here, please? Congratulations. Any words? Okay. All right. Zach Locke, he cannot be here tonight either. Zach is the son of Carrie Grazier and William Locke and is currently a senior at Meadville Area High School. Zach has attended the Crawford County Career and Technical Center for 3 years as well. He is planning to co-op for auto collision in the upcoming months as he has accepted a job for Betts Brothers Collision. Zach has been bowling since he was 11 years old, and in that time has accomplished a high game of 288, a high series of 713, both of those accomplishments I witnessed, which happened last week, and a high average of 170. Taylor Fitch. Taylor is the daughter of Tammy Morrow and Greg Fitch and is also the stepdaughter of Kim Morrow. Taylor is currently a senior at Cambridge Springs Junior Senior High School and has been bowling since she was 4 years old. Her accomplishments include a high game of 255, high series of 627, and a high average of 192. In the 2018 PA Youth Open, Taylor placed first in handicap all events, first place in team, 7th in singles, and 8th in doubles. Taylor has accomplished many of these feats after a severe back injury which required surgery, and this injury still lingers her with discomfort and pain to this day. Taylor is involved with activities and clubs at school, such as being a member of the softball team, Leadership Council, on Appleby Pond, Stand Tall, Student Senate, Key Club, and Yearbook Club. She is also an honor student. Taylor's favorite bowlers are a couple of Lost Lane's best, Natalie Hanks and Jeff Keener. Taylor has also served our country in the National Guard. Her future plans are to go to college and major in either criminal justice, international and homeland security, or intelligence studies. Once graduating college, Taylor's goal is to work for the government's intelligence agencies. Taylor, can you come up and get your award, please? Brooklyn Garvey. Brooklyn is the daughter of Rachel Garvey Rossman and is the stepdaughter of Joe Rossman. She is currently a junior at Conneaut Area Senior High. Brooke has been outstanding in the past year in bowling, accomplishing many impressive honor scores at the age of 16. Brooke's high game is a 300, which I witnessed, a high series of 754, and a high average of 195. Brooke also earned a very prestigious award last season. She was named the 2018 Cats Young Gun of the Year, beating out yours truly and another accomplished youth bowler, Michael Costello. Brooke is also a two-time District 10 Girls Champion, a title that I've never won on the boys' side. I've placed in second like 7 times, but that's okay. I'm trying. Hopefully I can do that next year. Brooke's future plans are to go to college and major in medical engineering. Can you come and get your award, please? What'd I do? Oh. There you go. Yes, you should.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you to my coach, Bruce, and his wife, Birdie, for being so amazing to me forever and my family. And I want to thank you all for putting up with me for as long as you have. I love you all. Thank you.
I also forgot to mention that Brooke has been bowling since she was 6 years old. Well, everyone, that is the conclusion of our junior recognitions. Before I depart, I'd like to say a few words. Some people don't say the nicest things that matter if you're young or old. Those people want you to change your mind because they don't agree with your decision. But you know in your heart that whatever decision you made is the right decision. No matter what happens concerning a situation, whether it involves a new job, moving into a new home, quitting drinking or smoking, even a relationship situation, your decision is the one that matters. In closing remarks, don't let anyone change your decision, your correct decision, your mindset, your future. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Doug's not here. Nick's a little taller, has a lot more hair. I'm going to tell my joke anyway. Okay, there's a group of guys, and they're getting ready for their 50th class reunion. And they're getting ready to go to their 50th class reunion, and they're looking forward to the night, and they go to the event. And here comes the class clown, the class geek, Edgar. Edgar has this drop-dead, gorgeous woman on his arm. On a scale of 1 to 10, she's an 11. The guys are all jealous, and the women are all envious. So they get Edgar aside. Well, they thought she was a paid escort. They found out later that she was not a paid escort. And they said, Edgar, how did you get this woman as your girlfriend? He said, fellas, she's not my girlfriend. She's my wife. How in the hell did you get her to marry you? Come on, what's your secret? He said, I lied about my age. They said, what did you tell her? You were 50. He said, no, I told her I was 90. I'm done. Okay, I was going to do ladies first, but Vicki paid me dearly, and she's going last. So the men are going alphabetically for no reason at all, but alphabetically works for me, so they're going alphabetically. Okay, Scott Grinnell was born on April the 24th, 1971 to Harvey and Millie Grinnell. He currently resides in the Meadville area with his wife Stephanie. They have 2 children, Philip Monteforte and his wife Adriana, and their son Gabriel, Anthony Monteforte and his wife Karen, and they have 2 daughters, Aubrey and Ella. Scott is currently employed at Meadville Forge as a machinist. He has 800 series to his name, as well as 19 career 300 games, a high series of 839, bowled in the 2003 local county tournament. He has a highest career average of 232, one of 4 years of averaging 230 or better. Scott has numerous county championships to his name, 17 championships, 2 scratch all-event championships, and 2 scratch doubles championships, to name a few. In 2000, Scott and his partner Roderick Baird won the PSBA State Scratch Doubles Tournament, and in 2013, his team won the PSBA State Team Scratch Championship. Several years ago, Scott and I bowled in the same league. He never said much. I never said much. He let his bowling ball do the talking, and it spoke volumes, loud and clear. To this day, my bowling ball's still quiet. But let's see what Scott has to say tonight. Scott, come on up here.
Thank you, Mike. Got my cheat sheet ready here because I get up here, I'll forget everything. So I've rehearsed this 1,000 times at work, and every time I do this, it comes out different. So we'll see what happens. First of all, thanks for everybody for coming. I want to thank my friends, my people I haven't seen for a long time. I know many of you out there. Thanks to my relatives, all my aunts and uncles are in attendance tonight. My mother and my stepdad, Terry. And special thanks to my brother and my niece Allie, made a trip all the way from Massachusetts last night. Driving in the snow and all kinds of weather. Thank you. It's a great honor to be part of the Hall of Fame now. First of all, I want to thank our local board members, Pennsylvania State Hall of Fame, for being here, or the delegates for being here, and Johnny Petraglia, our guest speaker. I met him 5 years ago when we won the state team tournament down in Harrisburg, and he happened to be our guest speaker that night too. So it's kind of like deja vu again, I guess. So, yeah, it's a great honor to be here. Have my picture up here with many of these guys who I've bowled with over the years. Got to know many of them, become good friends with. Have a few of them that really stood out to me. Just for, where they bowled. And I used to like to watch the older guys, and what I call older guys, when I first started bowling, because I liked their style, and that's why I had kind of a similar style to them. So, one guy in particular I'm going to mention is Bill Lynn. Bill, I bowled with him many years on Monday night, Stewart's Classic League. I guess you'd say he's my #1 role model, quote unquote. By bowling with Bill, many of you know when I first started bowling, I used to have, I wouldn't say a real bad temper, but I could get upset real easily. And bowling with Bill all through the years, the way his calm demeanor was on and off the lanes, he really taught me a lot about the game. Now I managed to calm myself down. I wouldn't get upset as much and all that, but you would never know if he was bowling good or bad. And he really taught me a lot just by watching him and stuff. So I have to thank him a great deal. So thanks, Bill. I know you're out there somewhere, but watching right now. But another guy I'd like to thank is Rod Baird, Papa Baird. My early days, many of you know, he used to run Center Bowl. He's a manager down there. When I first started bowling, he was always around. And this guy, he always took his game seriously. And he was always never afraid to give out instructions and all that if you'd ask him, or he'd come to you and tell you what you're doing. So I'm down there one night. After school, I go down and practice once in a while. So I'm down there bowling. I think we're the only ones in the bowling alley. He's doing his duty. I see him walk back and forth a couple of times. You know, he'd stop and watch me throw a ball as I could see him, you know. And when I got done bowling, I go up there and pay for my games. He asked me, well, how'd you bowl? I go, well, it seemed like I'm kind of struggling right now. I just don't seem to be throwing much of a hooker or nothing like that. So he stopped what he was doing. He come down there. Well, I'll tell you what. I was watching him throw a few balls. So I'll tell you what, just put your shoes back on, grab your ball, I'll turn the lanes back on, and we'll go down and see what you're doing. So I pretty much bowled another 2 whole games while he's giving me instructions and all that. It was real nice of him. I was thinking, well, I don't have any more money to pay for it, but he didn't even worry about it, didn't even think about it. So, and even then we got in adult leagues. So I bowled with him many years down in Crawford when I first started in adult leagues. And he knew my game probably more than anybody else. So he'd always wouldn't be afraid to, you know, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Say, you're not pushing the ball out, or you're being lazy with the follow through. Get that follow through up or whatever. So I got to give a great thanks to Papa Baird. So thank you, sir. One of my biggest role models. And I can't forget about talking about my Uncle Herman. And many know Uncle Herm. I gotta share a story with you about the first time I ever bowled with him. I asked my dad, well, I wonder if Herman would bowl with me in an adult junior tournament. That must have been like 14, 15. And so I called him up. He goes, sure, I'll bowl with you. So Uncle Herman's the kind of guy who'd like to forget about things, so I had to keep calling him and reminding him stuff. So it was out of Connery Lake, so I remember meeting him out there, and he had a different vehicle every time he'd go out there. He had like a used car lot in his yard, so you never know what he'd drive, you never know what to expect. So we're standing out there, I get out of the car, and here comes a guy with a 1964 Plymouth Valiant. It's all black. Well, that's a pretty cool car. Even my brother remembers that. So he gets out of the car. Oh, we didn't recognize it was you. Yeah, there's Uncle Herman getting out of his car. So he grabs his ball and his shoes and his bag, which happened to be a Cleveland Browns bag. Because many of you know I'm a Cleveland Indians, Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Don't ask why. It doesn't make sense. So he gets his Browns bag out. He shoves it right in my face. Like that. He goes, what do you think of that bag? I go, well, that's very nice, you know, because the week before, I believe the Browns played the Steelers, and the Browns, they just totally annihilated them. So he wasn't afraid to rub it in all the time. He started barking at me, because they were known as a dog. So he'd be like, woof, 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 all the way into the bowling alley. So we get in the bowling alley. He grabs his Columbia Yellow Dot out. And by the way, I had a Brunswick Johnny Petraglia LT-48 I was throwing that day. Still one of my favorite balls. I wish I still had it. I go up there, I'm averaging about 150 or so at the time, I guess. I was 14 or 15. I remember it well. First 2 games, I shot 177, 204, and I'm beating him. Like, wow, you know. And I remember my dad, he was getting on him back there. He comes over and goes, well, you little runt, this kid's up here kicking your butt here. You better get in gear. So he did eventually. I think he beat me by 30 pins overall. But that's my first recollection of bowl with my Uncle Herman. And he was one of my big role models, too, looking up to him through the years. We had a lot of fun together. And I could write a whole novel on 400-page book on the stories we've had over the years. So I want to thank him too. Okay, and there's other Hall of Famers up there. I could go on forever, but I don't want to stand up here forever. Guys like Billy Warner, Ron Terry, Ollie Dillon, Warren Ellsworth, Guys, I really enjoyed watching these guys bowl. They were old school bowlers, and that was kind of similar style I had, so I learned a lot by watching these guys. Also got to thank my my good buddies, Donnie Granda Jr. and Roderick Baird. We all graduated in 1989 together. So we bowled together many years in the same team and stuff in Merchants League. We had kind of, I want to call a rivalry between us, maybe. Maybe because I admit it so much more than they do, probably, because we always want to beat each other, you know, pretty bad, you know. And I'm the one that let them know about it when I beat them, though. The Donnie's the one that called me up and got me in there. At the time, a Merchants League was the big league around, it's a scratch league. Like, gee, Donnie, I don't know if I can bowl these. I mean, back then, the averages for these high-tech balls come out and the urethane, it was like, if you average 190 to about maybe 205, you're considered a pretty good bowler at the time. So I told him, well, I'm only averaging like 180. Are you sure I can do this? He goes, you're going to be there. See ya. So he didn't even give me a chance to say yes or no. I said, okay. So I remember the first night I was so nervous there. I'm bowling against these guys I just read about in the paper and stuff, and many of them are up here in the Hall of Fame. And after a while, I got to thinking, well, these guys are just regular, normal people like me and everybody else, you know, it's no different. So then I calmed down. I remember I shot 578 the first night. So I think, well, that's all right. You know, that's pretty much what everybody's doing. But by the end of the year, he had 8 5-man teams, so that's 40 bowlers. So they had a sheet printout with all 40 averages, and here I was like 18th in the league, like 189. It's like, wow, I can bowl these guys. That must be all right. So as the years went by, I get better and better and better. And Donnie drilled a lot of bowling balls for me over the years too, so I gotta give him, I wouldn't say he's a role model, but I gotta give a little butterball, you know, his due and tell him thank you, you know, because he was one of my rivals, I guess you want to call it. And then there's Roderick, my longtime buddy. Hi, bud. You're sitting back there. We won a couple of state tournaments together, and he's the one who got me into bowling. He needed a junior bowler I think for 6th or 7th grade. So he needed a junior bowler for his team. He asked me wanted to bowl, and I go, well, I'll ask my parents, and they said sure. So I got to say the rest is history. We had a lot of good times. There have been times that I really didn't want to bowl in some stuff, but he'd always say, oh, come on, you want to bowl, let's go. Okay, so and then we ended up winning stuff and winning money and all that, so I got to give a great thanks to my buddy Roderick. So thanks, buddy. I just have to learn how to beat him in golf now. That's what's driving me nuts. Because bowling golf in 5 years now, I might beat him in a hole once in a while, but I've never 9 holes or 18 holes, I've never yet to beat him. So when I do, I'll invite all of you. I'm going to have you all here, and we're going to have a big party to celebrate. So, well, I got to thank my wife for being by my side for ever since I met her. Stephanie, here I am. I coach Philip. How I met her, I coached Philip's baseball team. I drafted him #1 when we had our annual draft, you know, to draft our kids for our teams. So I got to know Stephanie, and I was telling her, you know, I bowl a lot. You know, I'm trying to tell her how great of a bowler I am and all that. And so I go, well, they're having a scratch tournament down at Seneca this weekend. Would you like to go with me or whatever? I guess you would call it one of our first dates. So she said, sure. So she come down, and here I am. Boy, you talk about putting the pressure on myself. I'm telling her about, you know, decent bowler and all that. Here I got this hot, sexy, beautiful woman sitting back here watching you. So I go up there, and I can remember I was a little nervous, you know. Just at least show up. I don't want to bowl bad, you know. And the next thing you know, I'm in the championship match here. So I ended up finishing 2nd place. So I guess she was impressed. And then 2 weeks later, I did the same thing. They had one down at Plaza, and she come down and watched me. I finished 2nd again. So she probably thought, well, I must have a keeper here. So yeah, he's telling the truth. So he must be pretty good. And to be able to, eventually we got married, and able to have my stepsons Philip and Anthony, get them involved in bowling over the years. And Philip actually wasn't too bad a bowler. He was kind of a down and in bowler, left-hander, but he threw a 749 one time. And Anthony, I never taught him how to do this because I didn't know how to crank the ball, but he just let her fly, let her loose or whatever. And they went to some state titles or state bowling tournaments a couple of times. Anthony and I won an adult junior tournament too. So that was really special. In fact, I have the plaque on my down in my man cave hanging up, and then a picture somewhere of us. But anyway, I gotta give her and great sticking with me through all these years and stuff. So thanks, Steffi. And last but not least, I gotta thank my parents. When I first started bowling, I couldn't get enough of the game. I was always down. I wanted to practice bowl all the time, but I can only bowl in one junior league at Center Bowl because that's, you know, what else, you know, not really many leagues for kids on Saturday mornings. So times were tough. Dad lost, it was in the mid 80s. Avtex Fibers went out of business, so Dad lost his job and just relied mostly on Mom's income. Dad had a couple of side jobs he did until he got out to PPG a couple of years later. But during that time, you know, I really liked to bowl more. They always found time to give me I want to bowl more. They always found the money. They probably sacrificed some of the things they like to do too. Even my brother too. He bowled for a while. And in fact, he'd probably be better than all of us if he continued bowling, because he threw a pretty good ball, but he didn't stick with it. But it'd be kind of interesting to see what he would have done. So I say, you know, I'd like to bowl a little more. They have a junior league down at Crawford on Saturday afternoons. I says, well, go ahead and do it. Well, I spent some of my allowance money in tournaments and stuff like that, you know, and saved up, and always trying to sell my brother my baseball card or something like that so I get some money to bowl and all that. But they always found, you know, they always had the money. I ended up bowling down at Cochrane, but they always found the time and the money to give us to bowl down so I could do this stuff. So, and I met a lot of nice people down at Cochrane too. And Keith Seidel is another guy that really drilled a lot of my bowling balls throughout the years. So that's another guy. You hear me, Larry? We gotta get him in the Hall of Fame. So I want to thank Keith too, and thank my mother, you know, for supporting me all these through the early years and stuff. And they didn't come watch me bowl in some tournaments later. I saved this for last in case I have a moment up here, but I got to thank my dad because he might be up here. He might be standing right here, right next to me right now, put his hand around me, and he'd be proud of me. So he'd probably beat me like that. I say, good job, Scott. He'd probably get that look on his face because he'd get to bite his lip and get a little tear in his eye, but he would say, good job. So with that, that's about all I have. Thank you, everybody.
Scott, in recognition of your induction in the Hall of Fame plaque from the Western Crawford County Bowling Association, today's date, November the 17th, 2018.
Crystal says.
This?
Yeah, that's crystal.
That's it.
It's
There
not
you
to be
go.
like a Pete Weber and fall off or anything.
Oh, I think it's on there pretty solid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, these bowling pins are compliments of Lakeside Lanes, and they are autographed by Johnny Petraglia. Congratulations on your induction, and watch the ink.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Mea culpa, I stand corrected. Scott is not a man of few words. Nice job, Scott, by the way. Dan Lilly was born on January the 1st, 1960. He currently resides in Venango with his wife, Lori. They have 4 children. Amy's 36, Stacy's 35, Jennifer's 32, and Adam's 29. Dan is currently employed at Lord Corporation. He has numerous 700 series to his name, his highest being 798, 796, and 792, and 3 300 games. Dan would have had a couple of 800 series by now, except for a couple of very stubborn 9 pins. His highest career average is 230, one of many years of averaging 220 or better. Dan has numerous championships to his name, county tournament, team singles, and all events titles, league and house championships to name a few. Dan has also served as a league president and is also a past association board member. Dan and I usually only meet in county tournaments, and like Scott, well, maybe unlike Scott, he's also a man of few words. He also lets his bowling ball do all the talking. Let's see what Dan has to say tonight. Dan? It's all yours.
Oh, boy. Thank you. I'd like to say I was really looking forward to this, but I'd be lying to you. Like everybody else, I got to cheat too. I got to have a few notes. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. What an honor it is to be here. Thanks to the people who made this evening possible. What a wonderful guest speaker we have in Johnny Petraglia. But being left-handed, there was a guy back in the air when I was watching TV on Saturday I probably rooted for a little bit harder. His name was Earl something, I think. Yeah, Earl something. The great Earl Anthony. I tried to think back about how did I end up here? Well, I guess I should start back at the beginning. Saturday nights when we were high school kids, we'd end up at the same place down at Center Bowl. First time we walked in the door for open bowling, there was a gentleman working at the counter. You could see the expression on his face. He goes, oh no, not another group of these kids again. But, so down on 13 and 14 we go, get them out of the way, you know, so you don't have to deal with them. And as we kept showing up Saturday after Saturday evening, we started working our way towards the counter. And as things went on, the guy was Gary Baker, former Hall of Famer. So Gary being a pretty shrewd businessman back in his day, he goes, he could never miss a chance like this. He was probably my first bowling coach. What did I learn from Gary? I probably learned my first hustle. Because we'd stand up there at the counter while he was working, we'd be bowling some games in between, and Gary started out, he just had a young kid like me, eager to learn, thought he was going to be pretty good. He goes, how about we bowl $1 a game? So we started bowling for $1 a game. I'll give you 25 pins. So we bowled $1 a game, 25 pins. He'd always win by a few. As I got better, okay, how about 20 pins? You're starting to get too good. He'd always win by a couple, 10, on down the line. So I guess what I learned from them first early lessons from Gary is that he got to drink after work on me. So, yeah, but him and my wife, we become very good friends over the years, and I wish Gary was here tonight because I kind of did that to try to razz him a little because he was very influential in my early career. Started showing me the things to do and how to do it. And as the years went on, I ended up, as an 18-year-old kid, deciding, geez, let's get in the men's league. So we started in the Tuesday night men's league in Cambridge Springs. My dad, all his friends bowled in it. They were always the guys to beat. They were pretty good bowlers for their era. And I can remember as we started going, you know, we started watching the better bowlers bowl, starting to try to pick up more and learn more. But in 1985, a pretty amazing thing happened, at least for me anyhow. Al and Shirley Dunwall bought Lost Lanes. And Al knows more about bowling than most people, that's for sure. He was a very good mentor to me. He drilled my balls, watched my game, critiqued what I was doing wrong, kept telling me where I was making mistakes. And when my job took me to afternoon shift, Al goes, well, why can't we have a morning league? So he started a Friday morning league, which I think they still have to this day. Well, then Friday become bowling day. So we bowl in the morning league, and then we'd stay after and eat Al's cheeseburgers and bowl till time to go to work. Wife was really proud of that. So, but Al was very influential. Thank you, Al. I probably wouldn't be here without your help and your coaching and drilling the balls, the whole 9 yards. Now, see, there's another myth, the left-handed myth. This is where we got to get, you know, I keep telling these guys this all the time, too. You ever look at one of those bowling charts they have hanging on the wall? If you're right-handed, they show you exactly where to throw the ball. You don't see that on the left side. We got to figure it out ourselves. So I'm not buying the myth of being left-handed. That's not so much true. But I stop back and try to think of, geez, what are you the most proud of? I says, well, I think that would have to be my wife, Lori, and our 4 children. They give life purpose. Sometimes they make you mad. Sometimes they make you want to pull your hair out, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Bowling wise, I don't know whether you start with the 300 games, the 700 series, the house high averages, the league high averages. I don't know. I guess probably one of the things I didn't even realize, one year I was bowling in Monday and Tuesday in the league, and end of the year the secretary passed out the sheets. And gosh, we got done and stopped and looked back. I had 26 700s in one season. I didn't realize I was even able to do that, let alone have that many in 1 year. So I'd like to thank my best friend from Tuesday nights. We've been bowling together for how many years, Kevin? Over 20. He puts up with me. We joke, we laugh. But that's one of the great things about this game is the friendships you make while you're doing it. I've got a lot of outstanding friends, a lot of people that, you know, you just meet and go on with. So, get to my next page here. Hey, this is not easy. In closing, I'd like to put out a special thank to Harry and Natalie Hanks at Lost Lanes now. They're the new proprietors. They do a wonderful job promoting bowling in the Cambridge area and working with the youth. Natalie spends a lot of time with the kids. They do an excellent job up there trying to make sure the sport keeps growing. To the rest of the proprietors in the county, thanks for all you do to grow the game. Now that the kids are grown, I hope to get around to see you guys a little bit more. I went down to Crawford last year, have a little bit more time and money now, so I want to bowl in a few more tournaments. And to everyone else watching, get out and join the league. It really is a great game. It's a wonderful way to meet new people, make new friends, and get a little exercise while you're at it. Plus it beats sitting on the couch. Thank you.
Once again, Dan, in commemoration of your induction, this plaque and a ring, and it commemorates today's date, November 17th, and a bowling pin. Congratulations.
That's just what I need. I can use it on the
Yeah. I hope it's not one of those stubborn 9 pins.
Oh, it probably is.
Okay, Dan, in your defense, or maybe not in your defense, you're looking for a line similar to what the righties have on those charts. Now, I know he's here somewhere tonight. I don't see him immediately. Did you ever bowl with Rodney Castile? Anything from one board left of the center line to one board right of the gutter. That was Rodney's zone. No one ever had that big a pocket in my lifetime. If it was left of center, not in the gutter, it was a strike. Where are you, Rodney? All right.
Is that not correct? What? Fingers.
Fingers, yeah, fingers. Okay, Vicki, I'm done now. You're the last one. Okay, Vicki Ann Hine currently resides in the Sagertown area with her husband Bruce. They have 3 children. Christina's 41, David's 40, and Philip's 37. She is currently employed at Rotec Home Medical. A 20-plus year member of the association, she started as a junior bowler at both Plaza and Center Lanes in 1964. She has held many league and association offices in her career. She is currently president of the Ladies Classic League and tournament director of the Women's County Tournament, plus a past director and a current vice president of the local association. She has a high game of 273 and a high series of 610. Vicki and her partner Ellie Van Gilder won the doubles competition at the Women's Central State Bowling Tournament in 2016. And I know Vicki is not a woman of few words. Vicki, come on up.
You're not going to hold this for me?
No.
Good evening. First, I would like to express my congratulations to Dan and Scott. I am very honored to be included this evening in the 2 of you to be inducted. Your accomplishments are amazing. I applaud you both. I also would like to say hi to John. Thank you for being here this evening. I tried to remember the first time that I picked up a bowling ball and thought, oh my God, was that so long ago? My brother Ron and cousins Bobby and Joanne and myself were in junior bowling in the mid-1960s. We bowled at Plaza Lanes and also Center. Looking back, I never seen myself standing here today. Diane Mudger, Marlene Gorley, Patty Lynn, Dot Mudger, Maria Price. Those were the names I remember that helped me back then. They taught me bowling etiquette, how to keep score. They taught us how to bowl. I back then threw a backup ball. I still do to this day, because I should have been a left-hander. My mother didn't want me to bowl left-handed. But nobody could correct me because I felt comfortable at doing that. I remember my Uncle Bob in the back of my head saying, shake hands with the head pin. Slow down. Slow your feet down. When I would drop my shoulder or rush the line. I would also hear Dot, Diane, also say those things to me. Those people meant a lot to me, and they still do to this day, that I can still hear them. I got away from bowling for a while in my life, work, family, raising my children. I went to college in my early 30s after my divorce. I started my career as a respiratory therapist. I went to work at St. Vincent's Hospital in 1994. I advanced in the field of sleep technology, and I became nationally registered in that field. To this day, I was employed as a respiratory therapist, and I also work in the sleep field in medical company. This is where I'm going to lose it. Joanne Ray Buck, my cousin, more like a sister to me, which of course you all know we lost way before her time, was very influenced in my bowling. She got me back into bowling when I bowled on Monday night in the Ladies Classic League with my Aunt Gladys and her. That's where I met some very influential people in my life. Cindy Crock, Lisa, got back with some people that I knew, Sue Hamilton, Patty Lynn, Dot, Mary Lou, a lot of people that are here tonight. And that's kind of what kind of got me into the association. Excuse me. Oh yeah, thanks. I knew. I really apologize. I knew that was going to happen. Now you're going to sit me in a damn corner. But getting back into the bowling, well, when I got back into the bowling, then I got into going into tournaments with the girls, which got me in the county tournament. We went to the county tournament that year, which in turn got me to going to the association meeting. That's when Patty Lynn, at that meeting, when I went to get my check for placing that year, said, "Oh, you need to get into the association. It's only a 2-year term, Vicki." That's been a long damn 2 years. Is what she did to me. And then, after that, let's now talk about Sue Hamilton. Because after I got into doing that, then Sue ended up saying, "Oh, okay, well, help me with the tournament a little bit." No problem. So I helped Sue with the tournament, which little did I know that she was grooming me to take over for her. And then she started stepping herself out. But I want to thank you, Sue, because you didn't, I guess you knew what was good for me. You knew what I was good at, because actually the tournaments kind of became my baby. I enjoy running the tournament. The hugs, the thank yous when the girls walk away after the tournaments are over, when they say, "Hey, you did a good job. Hey, I really enjoyed it." I'm always looking for new things to make the tournaments exciting for them, to make the girls come back, to bring more girls in. That's what I enjoy doing. Thanks, Sue. Now I can get back to it a little bit. I've attended many of the women's state tournaments with the girls every year. Sue, Mary Campbell, Darlene Richards, Pam Sowers, Betty, Marty Hanks, Sharon Stokes, Marty Lentz. Those are a lot of the girls that are original girls that we went with. We've changed a few up since then that go with us. Now I've got my partner in crime going with me, Ellie. We go to the state tournaments. Her and I, as you heard, we ended up winning the doubles tournaments in the Central States, which was really great. Thanks, Ellie. I really enjoyed bowling with you and becoming your friend. That's the one thing about bowling that I've found in going to the tournaments. I went to nationals once. I went to Reno. You got to do it at least once. You got to have that experience. One thing I found about bowling is you can go to a bowling tournament and not know that person that's bowling beside you in the same alley with you, but by the time you're done, you're high-fiving each other, you're saying, good ball, wow, nice ball, and you don't even know that person. But by the time you've walked away, being in the sport, you're appreciating what that person does. Other sports, it's hard to get to that point, but you don't know that person when you've walked up beside them. But you kind of do when you've walked away from them. That's one thing I found about bowling that I appreciate. Betty Facina. Thanks, Betty, for being there with me. Betty and I have gone many weekends for this association. We've gone to Harrisburg and other parts just for the state meetings and the functions, always bringing back information for our association. Thanks, Betty, for being there and going with me. Looking out at our junior bowlers tonight, I remember when I was in your shoes. I see really great things from our junior bowlers. that where they're going to be, and I really see some pros, or at least one pro in our midst. You know who I'm talking about, Nick. Oh, excuse me. I didn't say that out loud. I wish Joanne was here tonight. Everybody says she is. And she's looking down. And she's proud of me. She might be, but you all know Joanne. She would never have admitted it. Because that's just the way she is. Or the way she was. Thank you, Brian, Melissa, for being here. You guys mean the world to me. And Brian, thank you so much. You bowled your career series last night. 762, congratulations. Phil. My son, Phil, thanks for being here, son. Love you. Cindy. Thank you, my friend, for thinking so highly of me to nominate me for this honor. I met you and Lisa in the Ladies Classic League and many other ladies that I think so highly of. Man, did we have some good times. We drank a lot of beer. We didn't bowl so good sometimes, but man, that didn't make a difference. We just had some really good times. And Cindy, you give the best damn hugs. You were there for me when I was at my worst. Your mom was not doing so good, but you came and seen me in the hospital when I was bad. Thank you. To my best friend and the love of my life, without you, I would not be me. For everything that I have given and done for this association, you have always been there. Selling tickets, carrying things, being there for the ladies. You've been the cheerleader for everybody in the Ladies Classic, even when you didn't bowl. When you weren't there, the ladies asked where you were. They didn't ask where I was, just where you were. Bruce, thank you. On November 24th, we'll be married 29 years. And without you, I wouldn't be me. Thank you to the association for believing in me. Each of the board members, you know who you are. Without you guys, the board would not be what it is today. Thank you.
Vicki, congratulations. This is your ring. God, I love these plaques. Outside of the state of Pennsylvania, Vicki Hine, Hall of Fame, November 17, 2018, and a bowling pin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, we do have one mea culpa. Ramon Ramirez is also on the board. Rodriguez. I knew I'd get it wrong. Ramon, he's on the board.
Also, another one we missed was Gary Baker. Gary's not here, but Gary's also on the board. And like I say, we do appreciate all you board members. Speaking of that, before I move on to the Chinese auction, Stacy Dodson, would you stand up, please? Please, please. Thank you. Everybody give this girl a round of applause. She organized all these tickets. She is a big spearhead in organizing this banquet, keeping track of the tickets, or organizing who sits in all these reserved places. Stacy, thank you.
Okay, can I have your attention, please? At this time, we're fortunate enough to have a representative from the Pennsylvania State Bowling Association, Bob Durr, and Bob is representing the state president, Gary Melring. Bob?
On behalf of the state president, he's just recovering from heart surgery. I talked to him about an hour ago. Everything's going well. He's just sore. He sends his regards and congratulations to the winners. And if they would all three come up, we have a presentation for them. It does. I was just going to have them all come up and read it once and use all their names. Okay. The Pennsylvania State USBC Association has now the 17th day of November, the day of our Lord, 2018. Whereas Scott, Dan, and Vicki have made a significant contribution to and achieved much in the sport of American 10-pin bowling in the Western Crawford County USBC Association. And whereas as a result of these contributions and achievements, said Scott, Dan, and Vicki has been recognized by peers for being worthy of the induction into the Western Crawford County USBC Association Hall of Fame. Now and therefore the officers and the directors of the Pennsylvania State USBC Association themselves and on behalf of the bowlers in the Commonwealth of the state of Pennsylvania recognize, no, I was right the first time, to proudly recognize and congratulate Scott, Vicki, and Dan for their induction into the Western Crawford County Hall of Fame. There for congratulations. Vicki, congratulations, Vicki. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Shoe. Congratulations, everybody. As far as the state goes, we have been working hard on getting our bylaws and policy manual done. Dress code still in the works, so bear with us. We have meetings coming up in February or March. And hopefully, now that everybody's merged, everybody has more seats at our convention. So I'm hoping everybody can get those seats full, get people there to vote on everything. After all, it is your association. We're just here kind of making sure we do the right thing.
When is the next convention? What's the date?
Convention is July 13th and 14th.
Harrisburg again?
In Harrisburg at the Red Line Inn. It's a year later because the 4th, I believe, is falling on Thursday, so for the next couple, it'll probably be that third weekend. If some of you don't know, our new website is boldpa.com. Please go on there, check it out. All our tournament apps, entries, everything's online, can be filled out online and sent in. There's a thing Mr. Dairyman has through, I believe it's PayPal. You can get it all done right there on the website. All your directors are there, your president, the whole 9 yards. Other than that, that's all I have, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to introduce our featured speaker for the evening. I mean, he needs no introduction, but I'll give you a brief little history. Johnny Petraglia was born on March the 3rd, 1947 in Brooklyn, New York. He is best known as a left-handed bowler and member of the Professional Bowling Association, the PBA, where he won 14 PBA Tour titles. He has also won 8 senior titles. He is a member of both the PBA and the USBC Halls of Fame. I spoke to him earlier and I said, excuse me if I call you Secretariat. Like Secretariat, he's a Triple Crown winner. Now in horse racing, it's the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. A Triple Crown winner in bowling is the Tournament of Champions, the World Championship, and the US Open. And Johnny is the only pro bowler to win a PBA title in 6 decades. Must have been a pro at 4. Johnny, I salute your longevity. Let's give a warm Western Crawford County welcome to Mr. Johnny Petraglia.
I guess I should clear that up about the 6 decades. It's the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, and 2010s. So it isn't my age, it's the years of the decade. Thank you all so much for inviting me here. This has really been great. Today we did a little bit of a clinic and it went very well, and I met a lot of terrific people here so far. I guess first let me congratulate the 3 inductees tonight. Congratulations on your wonderful achievements. I think that I should start out, I guess the best way to start would be to tell a joke, since everybody's trying. And so therefore I will tell a joke in the spirit of our MC, Mike, okay? So it's, the joke is, they discovered that there's restaurants on the moon. They're not doing well, the food is good, but there's no atmosphere. Okay? I was so glad that Dan brought up the thing about the lefties, because I have a little story to talk about the lefties too. A little while back, I got an email from a man. He said, John, I bowl in a league, and I'm high average in the league, and I'm left-handed, and everybody hates me. He says, what should I tell these people? You know, and they keep telling me that I have more room to the pocket than they do. And I said back to him in the email, I said, well, we can start out with the beginning of school. I said, because when we went and sat in our chairs at the school, all the right-handers had that nice thing to lean on, and we had nothing. Our arm kept falling off. And then they taught us how to write, and all the right-handers were having no trouble, but we had to turn the desk sideways, go like this, and try not to smudge our letters, and nobody helped us out. We just kept getting C- in penmanship. And then, oh, now you have to make things, and they give you construction paper, and they give you your scissor, not ever letting the kids know that all scissors are right-handed, not left-handed, and you're looking around the room as everybody's cutting out these perfect dolls, and then we try to cut it, and all the paper does is bend in half, and nothing's working, and you start to feel by the 3rd grade that you're some kind of a spaz, and then as the grades go on, they start teaching you history, and in history you learn about the Bill of Rights, and it's my right to do this, and it's my right to do that, and you know, if you're against society, you're a left-wing extremist. And by the time your brain is ready to explode, thankfully the weekend comes, and you get to go to church. And you sit there in church, and the priest says that a good person is a righteous person and sits on the right hand of God. And anybody on the left side is in league with the devil. So I said, so tell them, do you want all of my problems, or do you want an extra board and area? So, okay. When we were talking about growing up and how did you get started in bowling. We talked about it a little bit today. In my case, something very interesting happened when I was young. I was 11 years old and I was working in a bowling center. And when I got done work, I could bowl for an hour for free. The bowling center was a 12-laner under a movie theater, and it was built in 1927. And the people that owned the bowling center, there was no such word as condition from back then. All they knew was you had to protect the wood. That was the key. So they used a bucket like you would use to wash the floor, but they put oil in the bucket, and then they ran the rags through the wringer, wrapped them around a broom handle, and then they would start on the first board and push it to the first board on the other side for 60 feet and protect the wood. And you're throwing a 90 hardness bowling ball, and you know, they're basically impossible, but when you don't have anything to compare it to, okay, this is the sport, this is the way it is. And it was enjoyable. By the time I was 14, I wasn't a real good bowler. I was a good bowler at 14, but not a real good bowler, but I was good in that center. And anybody that came in there really struggled. One of the local loan sharks, his name was Sammy, and he had a bodyguard named Bobo. And Bobo looked exactly like a Bobo, you know, the way a Bobo should look. And he comes up to me one day and he says, listen, kid, I'm going to find people to come down here and bowl you. He goes, and I'll put up all the money. If you lose, but if you win, you get 10% of everything I win. Well, that's okay. And besides, who's going to say no to Sammy anyway? I'm hanging out on the corner with my friends a couple of weeks later, and the caddy pulls up and Bobo gets out and says, get in the car, Sammy wants you. And we go to the bowling center, and there's 3 guys there, and they're adults. I'm maybe 30 years old. And one of them looks at me and says, this is who I'm going to bowl? And Sammy says, yeah. And he says, let's go. And we get on the lanes, and we're practicing, and I'm comfortable. Everything is okay. And then Sammy says, what's the bet? And the guy says, $1,000. And Sammy says, okay. And this guy takes out 10 $100 bills. It's the first time in my life I ever saw a $100 bill. And now there's 20 of them on the table because Sammy matches them. And I am now scared to death, and I completely panic, and I bowl terrible the first game, and I get beat. And I go, oh my God, my life is over. You know, and the 14-year-old brain takes over, and Sammy comes walking over to me, and I'm thinking, here it is, you know, 14-year-old found behind the theater, you know, just. And he says, listen, kid, you're a lot better than this guy. He goes, all you got to do is relax. You'll get him next game. And I said, next game? You mean you have another $1,000? How can you have another $1,000 when you just lost this $1,000? And he goes, there'll be a lot more games. Just relax. The next game I won. The third game I lost by 5 pins. The fourth game I won, but then I realized Sammy was right, and that I am a lot better than this guy. All I got to do is relax. And I win the next 2 games pretty easily, and the guy quit. And they leave, and Sammy says, you did real good, kid, and he hands me 2 $100 bills. And then he says to Bobo, take him home, make sure he gets in the house. And I got home, and I sat in my room, and I go, what do I do now? I don't even know how to break one. And if I could, I can't tell my parents where it came from, and what can I do with the money? Buy an extra hamburger? So I had a little box, and I put the $200 bills in the box. And over the next 4 years, every once in a while, Sammy would find somebody for me to bowl. And by the time I was 18 and I wanted to go on tour, I had $1,800 in the box. And that's how I got started on tour, because I had enough money for about 5 tournaments. So my whole career is based on a loan shark. I mean, just, I wanted to mention, I really wanted to mention this, about our sport, you know, because I hear a lot of things about the sport and what's going on with the sport. And we have the greatest sport there is. And when I hear people from other sports, especially writers from other sports, talk about our sport, why they don't think it's a sport. They say you're a game, you're not anything. And what I try to explain is that everything that you say that you don't think makes us a sport is exactly what makes our sport the best. Our sport doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. Doesn't matter if you're 4'2" or 7'2". It doesn't matter if you're 90 pounds or 290 pounds. None of those things matter. It doesn't matter who daddy was, and you don't have to worry about the kid playing the same position as your kid. All of those things are eliminated. It's almost like politics are non-existent. That's in our sport. And what really makes the sport great, if you think about this, you can take a perfect athlete that's 5'10", 180 pounds. And he could be the greatest lineman there is in the game, but he's not going to play in the NFL. And that same guy may be the greatest jockey that ever rode a horse, but he's not going to ride in the Kentucky Derby. In our sport, it doesn't matter who you are, what you're like. The only thing that matters is talent. 201 beats 200, no matter who you are and no matter who you're bowling. And that's what really makes our sport a great sport. If we're going to go back in history and tell a story, I think I wanted to start with Carmen Salvino. Okay. It was the summer of 1971, and we were getting ready to bowl in Palatine, Illinois, just north of Chicago, and it was July. It's the day before the practice session of the tournament, and a pro bowler by the name of Frank Husband owns a 16-lane bowling center in Chicago. And that's where we're going to meet. Frank is going to take us to a course that he knows, and we're going to go golfing. And I walk into the bowling center about 9:30 in the morning in July, and as you would expect, it's pretty dark. No lanes are going. Nothing much is going on, except I hear something on 15 and 16. When you walked into Frank's bowling center, the lanes were to the right, and you had to look back a little bit to be able to see the lanes. And I hear a yell just as the ball is hitting the pins. And what is that? And I look, and Carmen Salvino is bowling down there on lane 16. So I'm watching, and I'm waiting for Frank to come out of the office. And Salvino gets up the next shot, and he lets the ball go, and as soon as he lets the ball go, he starts to hitch his pants, and he's running it out, and I hear him say, "Watch that one's going to pop him." And the ball hits the pins, and he gets a strike. About that time, Frank Husband has come out, and I said, "Frank, what's he doing?" And Frank says, "He's practicing his act for his public." And I said, "What?" He says, "Salvino considers himself not just a professional bowler, but an entertainer. That when you go out there to watch him, he's there to entertain the public." Oh, I said, now I notice that there's a full-length mirror leaning against the wall right next to lane 16. And the next shot, Salvino doesn't throw the ball. He looks at the mirror. And this is what he does. All of a sudden, he takes his two index fingers and goes like this. And he starts moving the fingers faster and faster, and his head starts tilting back, and his mouth starts to open, and he's going as fast as he can, and then he goes like that. And I looked at Frank and I said, "What the heck is that? What's that all about?" And Frank says, "I don't know." He says, "I've never seen that before." Now it's the fall of 1971, and in 1971, the top 8 guys on the point list were invited to bowl in the Japan Cup with the top 8 Japanese players. And both Carmen and myself had made it. Now, the first night that we're there, they let us know that we're going to be presented with kimonos. And they go, "Now, on your kimono, you'll see the Japanese writing. This is your first name, this is your last name. And you're not going to understand what they're saying, but they will say your name, so it'll be you to go up there. And there'll be a little girl that will have the kimono, and she's going to present you with the kimono, and she's going to bow, and then you bow back and say thank you and walk off the lanes." Okay, and It's exactly what happened, and my name gets called, and we all do the same thing. We bow with the kimono, we walk off the lanes. The last one is Salvino. Salvino walks up, she presents him with the kimono, he takes the kimono, and he turns to start to walk off the lanes, and everybody was clapping. And as he got near the end of the approach, the applause started to die down like it did for the other 7 of us. And Carmen stops, and he lays the kimono over the ball return. And he goes like this. And they keep clapping. And he's going faster and faster and faster with his fingers. And they're clapping louder and louder and louder. And now his head is tilted back just like it was in Chicago, and his hands are going wild, and now they're giving him a standing O, and he goes like this, and they stopped on a dime. And he'd been practicing this for 3 months. Just... in 1994, I shot a 300 on TV. And I get, it was worth $100,000, and I get asked a ton of questions about it all the time. The backstory of this 300 is really, really special, because this is, it's funny, Stephanie Grinnell told, she gave the vocation today. Well, if you didn't believe in God before this will make you believe in God. Brunswick gets contracted for the movie Greedy. Michael J. Fox and Kirk Douglas are in a movie called Greedy. And it's going to be all Brunswick equipment in the film, and I'm going to be the coach for Michael J. Fox. And for about 2 months, I have to sort of teach him how to look like a bowler. It doesn't matter if he can bowl or not. He's supposed to look like a bowler. And what happens in the movie itself is that there comes a point in the movie where Michael J. Fox is bowling the final game to try and make the TV show. He's in 5th place, and if he wins that last game, he makes the TV show in the movie. And in the movie, I have a little part. My character is, I'm in 8th place going into the last game. And the lady that's in the movie, that's Michael J. Fox's girlfriend, comes down because it looks like he's on the show, win or lose, except I bowl a 289 and go from 8th to 5th. And she says to him in the movie, you're still okay. All you need is a mark to win your game and you'll stay in 5th. And he gets up and he hits the nose and he leaves a split. And then he makes the split. Like he's on the show, and now he needs 3 pins, and he hits his ankle and the ball goes in the gutter. And I end up making the TV show in the movie. The movie is going to be released on March the 5th. I'm sorry, on March the 4th, 1994. And that's a Friday. We're bowling in Toledo in the national championship. And as this movie is premiering on that time, we're bowling the final game of the finals, and going into the last game, I'm in 8th place with 1 game to go. And the last game in real life, I shoot 279 and go from 8th place to 5th place to make the show while it's happening on the movie screen that's fake. Okay, and then the next day is when I bowled the 300 on TV. What is so special about the 300 is you had Larry Lickstein here last year. I guess he spoke for an hour and a half and told you 4,000 stories. If you should ever remember the 300, Larry is the one that attacks me after the 12th strike on the lanes. But what had happened is our player rep on the tour at that time was Ray Edwards. His name was Ray Edwards. And the locker room was behind lanes 59 and 60, and we're bowling on 27 and 8. During the practice session that week, Ray Edwards drilled me a forest green quantum, which had just come out with an extremely aggressive layout. And he says, throw the ball, and the ball hooks from one side of the lane to the other. It just hooks 20 boards. And I go, Ray, I can't even control this ball. It hooks so much. And he goes, but you never know when you're going to need it. Just leave it in the locker room as part of your arsenal and leave it at that. So, okay. Now we go out and we're on the TV show and we're warming up, and the lanes are just like they were all week until about 10 minutes before airtime. Now, whether it was something with the lights or something with the oil can, nobody really even knows. All we know is that nobody can hit the head pin anymore. The oil carried down and the ball is going straight and straighter and straighter and straighter. And Ray Edwards comes up to me because I can't hit the head pin either, and he says, "Where's the Forest Green Quantum?" And I said, "It's in the locker room." And he runs to the locker room, he gets the ball, and he brings it back, and he hands me the ball. And at that time, because I'm in the first match, there was only about 2 minutes left, the tournament director says, "One shot on each lane, gentlemen, and then we're going on the air." So Ray Edwards says to me, "Move into the fourth arrow, stand on 40 with your feet," and I throw my first practice shot, and I get on the other lane. He goes, "Move a little bit deeper, look at about 22, get your feet a little bit further," and I throw the next shot, and he tells me, "Start there with that ball." So the first game, I'm bowling another lefty. I'm bowling Eric Forkel, and Eric Forkel bowls 180, and he can't hit the head pin, and I shoot 230. And the next game is the 300. If Ray Edwards isn't there, if Ray Edwards doesn't drill that ball, I bowl 180 just like everybody else. Now the show is over, and we're coming off the lanes, and there's a lady behind the control desk, and the lady says, "John, line 4 is for you, it's the White House." And I said to the lady, "No, it isn't, it's a prank call, just hang up." And she says, "Oh, but they're very insistent." I said, "Look," I said, "Bill Clinton isn't watching the bowling show, and before we're hardly off the air calling the lanes. It's just a prank, don't worry about it." And she says, "Yes, but if it's really the White House and I'm going to hang up on the president, I can't do that." And I said, "Okay, I'll take the call," because I don't want the lady to feel bad or get in trouble. So I pick up the phone and I go, "Hey, hello, this is John." And the guy on the other end of the phone says, "John, my name is Joe Cirillo, and I own the White House Tavern in Chicago." He says, "And you don't know me from Adam, but the whole bar is going nuts and we just had to call you out." And I thought it was, one of the, it was a lot better to get a call from Bill Clinton, I can tell you that. I was trying to figure out how I wanted to explain this. There's an old expression that you don't miss somebody until they're not there. And I think the best way to try and tell this story is this way. There's a bowler, I don't know how many of you have ever heard the name before. There was a great bowler named Jimmy Smith. His real name was Jimmy Malillo, but when he was a kid, he had a sub in the league, and they had already written Smith down because they couldn't find the sub. And from that point on, his name became Smith instead of Malillo. So through his whole life, he became Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith is not only one of the greatest bowlers that ever lived, but he's possibly, or at least statistically, the greatest bowler that ever lived. Jimmy Smith's career ran from 1900 to about 1935. From 1900 to 1920, his 20-year average in the ABC tournament was 202. Okay, now, from 1900 to 1908, he was using a conventional two-fingered wood bowling ball. And then Brunswick made the Mineralite, and for that time on, Jimmy Smith was using a two-fingered conventional hard rubber bowling ball. If you look at the USBC Hall of Fame and the people that are in it, in that 20-year period right there, in his era, the second high average that's in the Hall of Fame is 191. He was 11 pins better than everybody else that he was bowling against. So if you take a typical PBA event today, that's 42 games, that means he would lead by 450 pins whenever he was bowling. In 1919, the new kid on the block was a guy named Jimmy Bluin, who is also in the Hall of Fame today. And the the National Match Game Championship was pretty much today's Masters, was the big tournament of the day, and Jimmy Smith had won it 13 times. And now he was going to have to bowl Jimmy Bluin in the final match. There was so much interest in the match, could the new star knock off the king, that the match was held in a place called Roxy Lanes. It's a 40-laner that was underneath the Roxy Theater on Broadway in New York City. So many people wanted to watch the match, the fire marshals wouldn't let anybody else in once it was packed, and there was 200 people that never saw the match. They were standing outside, and what they did is they brought a blackboard up, and they put it there, and they would yell up the staircase what the bowler got, and 200 people saw the 3-game match by looking only at the blackboard. They never saw a shot thrown. And Jimmy Smith prevailed, okay? Over the years, he then went on a 10-year tour, and he had an agent, and the agent said for those 5,000 or 6,000 games that he bowled through all of the cities, that his average at that time was 205. Now, they're going by what the agent said. They do, however, have documented that in 1922 and 1923, he bowled 703 games, and every single one in a strange center, not a home center, because he's traveling from city to city to city, and he averaged 211 at that time. As it got later in the decade, and they were out in Denver, Colorado, the greatest woman bowler of her day was a woman named Floretta Mccutchen. Floretta Mccutchen held every single record that can be held by a woman at that time. And she was the best bowler. He would always be bowling the best bowler in the city, and the best bowler in the city of Denver at that time was Floretta Mccutchen. So they set up 4 matches, daytime and evening, 2 days in a row. And Jimmy Smith won the first 3 matches, but in the 4th match, Floretta beat him by 7 pins. She won the final match. Floretta got signed to a 10-year, 51-city contract after that. And after all the records that she had and all the things that she could have done, the only thing that they did as a promotion was the woman that beat Jimmy Smith. That's all they had to do. That's how big his reputation was at the time. So, why am I telling you this? Okay? I'll put it this way. Almost 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor said, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." Those of us lucky enough to be blessed with talent, to get into a hall of fame like the inductees tonight, will always be remembered. But where did the eternity come from? It comes from the bowling writers, the folks, your board, the association, the press officers, the league secretaries, the league treasurers. These are the folks that write and record history. They're the gatekeepers. Without them, the people would not be remembered. Because of them, the same way that Jimmy Smith and Floretta, which I told you about tonight, that happened 100 years ago, still live and are living in eternity. The same exact thing is happening right here. All of you people, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, there'll be girls like Brooklyn that says, "I remember coming to this banquet, and now I'm in the hall, and who inspired me," and talk about it, and all the records will be kept. And when you think about the job that those people do, it's not because of how much they're getting paid. It's for the love of the game that the people are doing this. So I just want to leave you with this thought, and I'll cheat and I'll use Longfellow instead of me, because he said it so much better. He said that great people teach us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints in the sands of time. The inductees tonight and all the other people that are in your hall have definitely placed their footprints in the bowling sands. But always remember that the board and the secretaries and everybody else, they got their toes in the sand right next to you. And thank you so much for having me here. It was really great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mike says I should ask for a Q&A, so does anybody have any questions out there? Wow, this is, okay. Nick.
Talk about your 1996 match with Bob Learn.
The 1996 match with Bob Learn. That's when Bob Learn set the 4-game record, and we were in the arena in Erie, Pennsylvania. And Bob and I were in the first match. And this is really a credit to Bob. I started with the first 6, and then in the 7th frame I left a solid 6, and I struck out for 279. And Bob had the first 9 and was finishing last. He gets up in the 10th frame. He has to go 9 spare strike to tie. He's got to get the first one in the 10th to win the game in front of a couple of thousand people from his hometown. And he made a great shot in the 10th and struck. And then, what is really special, he strikes to win, and there's 100,000 on the line if he can bowl 300. And now, after being that excited and having a little bit of adrenaline drain, he's got to figure out how to get it back up to try and throw 2 more shots. And he makes 2 great shots, and he beats me 300 to 279. And it was a very special moment, you know. And then he ends up averaging 282 or something like that on the show. He just bowled great the entire show. And by the way, that's one of the people you should invite to speak here. He does a very good job in that too. Thanks, Nick. Anybody else with any questions? Yes, Bruce. Yeah.
Wasn't that one of the first arena bowlers, and what did the pros think of that?
Well, that was one of the great arenas, but see, this is, facts get lost. The first arena bowl that we had was in 1972, and it was in Madison Square Garden. They set up 2 lanes in what is the Felt Forum, not the garden itself, but what is the Felt Forum. And they've set up those 2 lanes, and the Felt Forum could hold about 5,000 people, and they filled it up pretty good for the show. It was exciting. But one other thing is that when we talk about history, something that can get you excited about bowling is that same year when I was 13, not that same year, but when I was 13 years old, they put up a pair of lanes in Madison Square Garden, and they had Don Carter and Dick Weber and Marion Ladderwig come in to do an exhibition, which all of us went to see. The 4th one in the group was Judy Sutar, who was married to Dave Sutar, but this is when she was Judy Audsley. That was her maiden name. And Judy had done so much by the age of 16 that Brunswick signed her to a contract, and she was the 4th one that was there. And Judy is 5 feet tall, 90 pounds, and 16 years old. And they had pictures because she was the youngest to bowl in the WIBCs when she was 11, and she ended up averaging, like 178 or something like that. And she was so small that they had to go find the crate for her to stand on when you take the picture of the 5 of you. So when you're 13 years old and you're with all your other friends, and she's only 3 years older than you, and it's, how can anybody that little be that good? Because she was tremendous. Thanks, Bruce. Anybody else? No? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if you could share with us who was your in match play in your PBA career, your most antagonist?
Toughest opponent? Does that help? Don Johnson, by far. When you bowled, the difference, Earl Anthony was brought up, but when Earl Anthony beat you, he out-bowled you the first 9 frames. I don't want this to come out as a knock, but if you were in the hunt going into the 10th, you had a good chance of winning that game because Earl didn't perform that great in the 10th on TV. Don Johnson, on the other hand, you better be up a pin and have a strike in the 9th going into the 9th frame there, because you know that Don Johnson's going to throw the last 4. He always did. As soon as he needed it, he was as tough as nails. He was the toughest to beat. And by the way, my record with Earl Anthony is 3-3. We both had a title 6 times, and we were 3-3. So, I mean, that's sort of a credit to me. That made me feel good. One thing about Don Johnson and Earl Anthony is we had a friend named Gary Mage, and we were bowling in Portland, and the lanes were very, very lousy on the left side that week, and no lefty got within 50 pins of getting a check, but Earl Anthony finished 17th. And that night back at the house, I told him, great job this week, and he said, it stunk. It was terrible. I said, Earl, I bowled on what you bowled on. I know how impossible they were, and you finished 17th. And he grabbed me by the arm, and he said, listen to me carefully. He said, second is a bad week. And I said, what? And he says, I am either satisfied or I'm unhappy. And I said, well, aren't you ever happy? And he said, no, only satisfied. And I guess that's one of the reasons that made him so great. And Don Johnson, on the other hand, when he was off the lanes, he was the exact opposite. He was as free as a bird, and just we had a party one night, and he loved Wilson Pickett, and he would carry his own High Fidelity around with him. And he literally fell asleep on the floor with the speaker up against his ear, listening to Wilson Pickett. That's different people react different ways. And anyway, Don Johnson was certainly the toughest. He ended up with 26 titles, 2 Bowlers of the Year, but he had some kind of a nerve problem in his thumb that ended his career early. Otherwise, he would have done much better than that. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Back in my younger days, the yellow dot, the LT48 were the big balls that changed everything to what is now, reactive resin, the hooking balls. How many years did you actually throw the LT48 before you went and they made you up another ball?
What had happened was I was with Brunswick. So Brunswick's first reactive resin, I guess it was about the mid to late 80s, somewhere around there, was the Purple Rhino Pro. And we were in the 6-lane house at the Brunswick plant, and at that time Chris Barnes was on our staff. And everybody is so excited throwing this ball down the lane. I felt like I could miss this far, and and it would hit so much harder, and we're all happy. And Chris Barnes keeps coming back with a puss on his face. He's not happy at all. And I finally asked him, I said, Chris, what's the matter? What's the problem? And he said, this is just what we need. Walter Ray with back end. and Walter Ray goes Bowler of the Decade back to back from the day that reactive resin came out. Chris Barnes was very prophetic on that. Anyone else with a question? Okay, Nick. My funniest moment. This is, I'll have to think about this. This is, I could tell you my worst moments on the PGA Tour, but I don't, the funniest things that happened on the, well, okay. But it's going to disparage a couple of people, but I guess this is the best way to put it. I wish I had a video camera at the time. Lenny Nicholson was the PBA lane man for a number of years. Jim Godman was a great bowler out of California, and Billy Hardwick was a great bowler of the year out of Louisville, Kentucky. And I go walking into the bar of a bowling center at a tournament, and it's one of those high top round tables. The 3 of them are sitting at the table. And there's so many beer bottles on the table, there's no place to put another beer bottle down. And what they are doing is they are toasting their 14 wives, okay? Because the 3 of them had 14 wives. And the way that they're toasting them is they're picking up the beer and they're singing, to all the girls I've loved before. I don't know if it's the funniest, but it's one of the good ones. Yeah, just as far as embarrassing moments, you know, where you want to go in a hole and hide somewhere. I had one in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and these are the old-time hanging telescores. And the next year, the lanes were very, very tough. And I'm defending champion. And going into the last game, the number to make the finals is plus 19. And I'm plus 24 going into the last game. And I have a double clean going into the 10th frame. And the number's really not going to move. We already know that. So I can get any kind of mark and finish about 25 over, I'm going to make the finals. And I throw what I thought was a really good shot, and I leave a solid 6-8 in the pocket. And then when I shoot at the 6-8, I slide the 6 into the 8, and the 8 doesn't fall down. And I end up 14 over. I feel like that cost me the finals. And when the 8-pin gets hit and doesn't fall down, I swing around and smack the telescore, and it comes off the chain. And it just goes like this. So they have to stop the squad, go out there with a ladder, and rehang it. And I'm just looking to get out of the bowling alley. I'm so embarrassed. And I'm in the locker room, and now they're announcing the top 24, and they say, and 24th place goes to Johnny Petraglia plus 14, and I make the finals, and I have to come back and bowl that night. That was my younger days.
Did you get fined?
Oh yeah, I got fined. Well, you get the tournament committee. You get put on report, and you go to the tournament committee, and they vote if you should get fined or not. So, some like Ernie Schlegel, I don't know how much you know about Ernie Schlegel, but Ernie Schlegel he's pretty crazy, and he feels like the whole world is always against him. And we were bowling the Miller High Life Open in Milwaukee in red carpet lanes, and in the settee area, all the tiles are white, and then you'd have to step up on the approach. So the final tile was blue, like a warning tile, so that you wouldn't trip to step up. And the PBA, for some reason, at that time, they had this silly rule that photographers weren't allowed even on the approach. You know, today they can walk down the gutter caps while you're bowling practice, and they can shoot you from any place that they want. And the local press is there. And because it's a back-to-back house, Ernie and I qualified in the middle of the pack, so we're on something like, say, 31 and 2 on the one side of the house. There's 36 lanes on each side. And here's a photographer. He's sort of smashed up against the wall, leaning like this, trying to get a picture of us bowling. And this is driving Ernie crazy. Do you see this guy, John? Do you see him? Look what he's doing. And I go, yeah, you know, what's the problem, Ernie? We're practicing here. He goes, pretty soon he's going to put his foot on the approach. And sure enough, the guy puts one foot on the approach like this, and he's leaning to get a better picture. And now Ernie is apoplectic. He's completely out of his mind. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? He's standing on the approach. And I'm trying to practice. And I said, I don't know, Ernie. If he crosses the blue line, we'll call him for icing. And, you know, I just... So now the practice is over. Ernie's got to start the match. He gets up and he's aiming, and this is like 2 or 3 minutes later. And he just got the joke because his shoulders start shaking, and he steps off the approach, puts the ball down, tries to get recomposed, gets back up, and leaves a 4-6. He comes back and he tells the scorekeeper, call the front desk, I need the tournament director right now. So the tournament director comes down and he says, what's up, Ernie? He says, I'm placing Petraglia on report. And he says, for what? He said, for intentionally telling me a joke to throw me off and break my concentration. And I literally had to go in front of the tournament committee next week. And they were going, you're kidding, Ernie. So it was a 16-0 vote. I didn't get fined. And Ernie is yelling in there. If it was anybody else, you would have got fined. You didn't fine him because everybody hates me. Anybody else? Okay, well, folks, this has really been terrific here. I've enjoyed it. You have a wonderful association. And once again, to all of you, the inductees and everybody else, congratulations. Thank you for a great night.
Thank you very much, Joe.